Welcome to the 2021 Fanfare Launch into Cyberspace. Normally, you'd be visiting the High School of Art and Design's gymnasium, cafeteria, and other spaces around the building to interact and learn about the incredible creations of our young professionals, other creators and innovators in the community. You'd be seeing portfolio reviews. You would be involved in special seminars and workshops. You'd be seeing exciting contests and drawathons. Again, that would have been during a normal school year. The incredible challenges of the pandemic have forced our amazing PTA to take Fanfare and bring it online. So this is our first and hopefully only virtual Fanfare event. And with that said, we still have the vast majority of incredible experiences and learning opportunities for you to be a part of. We're incredibly proud of what our PTA and larger school community have put together and can't wait for you to join us throughout today and the next few days as each one offers unique and special events. Be safe, be well, most importantly, enjoy yourselves and be part of our community.
Awesome. So this panel is called Evolution from Paper to Pixel. In comic books, we're going to be talking about what are the pros and cons of ditching paper and moving to the digital environment. So I'm going to toss it over to lovely moderator Josh Adams, who's going to introduce the panelists that he'll be talking to this evening.
Josh. Hey, everybody. My name is Josh Adams. I'm a comic book artist, work for Business Insider, but more importantly, I am also a art and design parent and the son of an art and design graduate. So I have a lot invested in this, and I've been doing Fanfare with the PTA for 4 years now. And interestingly enough, we're going digital this year. And appropriately, we decided we'd talk about artists going digital. And so today we have two artists who worked at one point traditional, worked digital. They have their pros and cons, and they would like to talk about the evolution of their process. So I would like to introduce our two artists, the first being Simon Fraser, who's done work for Judge Dredd, Nicola Dante, Shimura. He's been all over. He's an educator. He is a wonderful man, a person I've known for plenty of years. Simon, it's great to see you. Our other artist, thank you. Our other artist I want to introduce as well is Stefan Roux. He has worked all over. He's worked on Superman, X-Men, Batman, Amazing Spider-Man. You've seen his covers all over the place. I have some of his work in my office. He's another wonderful friend. Yes, Rocketeer. Why am I forgetting Rocketeer? There. Stefan. Yep. I would like to lead off with a simple baseline question. How long has digital been part of your work? I guess, Simon, we'll start with you.
I was trying to think back about it because I knew you were going to ask that. I think the first digital artwork I did was 1996. That's as far back as I can go. Now, that was just on. I mean, I'm a big fat geek. I love tech. So I've been kind of like, I knew it was coming and I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't. I mean, this is one of my first computer that was capable of doing any kind of artwork. And I didn't have a scanner, so I used a fax machine to scan the line work in. And I colored it using, I mean, it was just this kind of hodgepodge of bits and pieces.
Nah.
And I was like, at the time, I think, nah, we're not there yet. It's a while before we can actually make some money doing this. And I've been kind of like dipping my toe in every few years. So yeah, it's been a long process for me. I only really committed to it completely in the last couple of years. But yeah, it's been a long way.
And Stefan, what about you?
Well, around the same time, but that's it was dictated by necessity because my background is for 17 years I've been working in animation. And that's around the time when for TV productions, that's when they started to switch to digital, namely with the background department. So I was creating characters. I was designing them on paper, but then we would scan them, we would start to put them in color on the computer, and I had friends who were more on in the prop department, coloring characters and stuff. So I started to pay attention to what they were doing, and then I made the jump because I wanted to be able to colorize my own comic book material or illustrative material. So I got like the best teachers because they were on the field already.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like for the last 20 something years, it's been mostly background or coloring the pieces. And lately, like I tiptoed with drawing digitally 15 years ago, but then I dropped it. I went back to paper because entering the comic book field, I wanted to play by the book. No pun intended, but that was just, I wanted to make it, look real, sound real, feel real.
Yeah.
Like our illustrious models.
Yeah.
But after a while, deadlines catch up with you, and you go, oh wait, the possibility of going back to your layout, to your pencils so many times, keep a copy, erase, redo, modify, expand, reduce and stuff. That was so much faster to do this digitally than to do it on paper. So it shifted maybe over the last 6-7 years that I've been doing more stuff digitally when line art is involved, for sure.
I think that's the difference. That's what's really changed recently. Is now that the machinery is so good, you can do inking well. It was hard to do inking well.
That too. But the whole process of working on a layout, composing your image, and then tweaking elements, just selected elements, that is already a time saver. I mean, you can still print your layout or your pencils and ink them the traditional way if you want to, which is something that I still do a lot. But it's that process. That's part of the process that goes so much faster and allows for errors you can save and let to rest and then come back later and still look at it and say, okay, yeah, I can see now why this is not working, and I'm gonna make another layer, I'm gonna make another proposition, I'm gonna let it rest, I'm gonna come back to it. Oh yeah, that works better. When you do it on paper, you're like, okay, I'm not going to erase this because I don't want to lose the energy I had on that hand or on that head or on that. And you're depriving yourself of options. In a way, digital can make you schizophrenic and can make you undecisive.
Yeah.
And it can become an issue where you don't know which road to take because you got so many options, 16 million options for colors and if not more, and then as many as you draw on your layers. But when you're on paper, and that's one of the rules it's really helping with focus. When you're on paper and you only have a few options because you don't want to erase and you don't want to start again, or you do it on a side paper, it requires more focus. So it trains you on being focused to a certain level and to a certain length and duration. When digital allows you to be boom, 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 and not paying attention, and you can have a focus deficit.
That's true.
Practicing that much. So the two are invaluable for different reasons, for sure.
A question that just occurred to me, but would you say that doing more digital work has affected your style, or did you adapt that style to the digital process?
Just like every tool, right? Go ahead, Simon.
No, it's interesting. I was thinking about that too, because I transitioned to digital halfway through a project because I was so bored with the project that I thought I've got to give myself something challenging to do here, something technical at least to do, because otherwise I was starting to hate it. And you know what happens when you start to draw something you hate? It's like, it doesn't look good. So I transitioned halfway through the project. So the object was for you to not see the transition. So it would be exactly the same line work quality all the way through. And I think I managed it. I would challenge anyone to look at that book and say they could tell. But it was fascinating because I think it's interesting with digital. What Stefan says, you've got so many options and so many choices, and you can choose to do anything. You have all the tools and all the techniques available to you. And really what decides what you are as an artist is what choices you make, how you limit yourself, and how you kind of feel what you feel is important about your work. And I feel that something that was important about my work was a kind of like organic, sort of messiness. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's
No,
you
it
look
makes
at my work
sense.
and you see it's kind of my work looks a little bit precise, but I know that really underneath it, the ink work's a little bit crappy, and I use a deliberately crappy brush to ink with
Yes.
because I don't want it to look perfect.
Mhm.
Because that kind of robs you of something. It robs you of an elemental force.
The moment, it's interesting what you just said, because the moment I went into, okay, I'm going to draw that piece full digital, or I'm going to draw that page full digital, I immediately went with one of the basic Photoshop brushes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the chalk.
Yeah.
And I kept that torn edge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand a super crisp vectorized line
Right.
for a comic book. It's not that it pulls me off. If the story's good, it keeps you in and all that stuff. It's not that. It's just, you said the keyword organic, that organic vibe. And I love nothing better at this point in my artistic career that trick my audience, and I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But trick them in the right way. Like, show them a page that's done digitally, and inevitably somebody will ask, is this watercolor? Is this is that, where's the original? I want to see. I'm like, dude, that's all digital. That's like, yes, nailed it.
Well,
Because let's face it, it's so easy to look digital.
Right.
I've always likened illustration to something a bit like magic, in that we are creating things that are not real, but we're giving you just enough for the brain to be tricked into knowing exactly what you're looking at. But much like that, I think a lot of fans out there and a lot of young artists want to know what we use to make that happen. So if you guys could clue us in a bit to the tech behind the art.
Yeah, I just want to say before, because that still revolves around what Simon was saying.
Yeah.
With all the opportunities of options we have with digital and whatnot, let's not forget that it's not about the tool.
No.
It's about how you use it. Because you could be carving stone.
Yeah.
It's the way you use it. It's the way that makes it unique. So whether it's a tablet, whether it's a Surface or an iPad Pro or whatever, it doesn't matter. Do you get the brush that this fancy artist is putting available online, selling or what? It doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm using the basic. There's 16 brushes to start with on an old version of Photoshop. That's what I'm using, and I'm only using one, and that's it. That's it. I just move the cursors and stuff, and that's it. It's not about that. It's about your understanding of composition, your perception of negative space, your understanding of if you're doing interiors, comic book pages, it's your understanding of a flow of a page, the payoff panel, all that stuff that you funnel into that brain of yours, and then just it runs through here and it comes out, and there you go.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to remember we're storytellers first and foremost. The drawing is part of that.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not,
only a part. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to create realism. I'm trying to create a realism, and I want to create artwork that's compelling because I want people to look at it and go straight in. I don't want someone to sit and admire my line work. That's stupid. I can always look at Sergio Topi and admire the line work, but I never read the stories. I want something. I want that invisible. I want it to be compelling so that it becomes invisible, so that someone's in the story and reads it and doesn't even notice the artwork in a way. I want that kind of like invisible, to remove the barriers as much as possible, because the comics is such a strangely artificial medium. If you think what we're doing is we're constructing narratives with images on flat paper, which exist in time, which have got elements of all kinds of different media. But we imagine these things in our heads, that closure thing that happens, that we make these narratives make sense. So it's not about, for me, it's not about making, the tool is just exactly what Stefan says. It's just a tool. And it's a tool to make what's inside my head exist. Mm-hmm. And everything else is a side effect. I mean, original artwork, I've got tons of it over there. Original artwork is just a side effect of my process.
Yeah.
And it's, and these digital files are a side effect. The real thing at the end of the day is I want to have a comic. I want to have piece of some paper, that's the final artwork. And the final artwork is somebody sitting reading that and feeling completely transported. So yeah, whatever tool you use, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is a digital panel. We're talking about going digital. It's ultimately, it doesn't matter. Use what makes you happy. Use what makes you more efficient. And I think digital makes you more efficient, frankly.
And then again, the whole topic of the hour is about pros and cons around digital or traditional. As an artist, if you're a blooming artist or a confirmed seasoned professional, if you're an artist at heart, you're going to dabble with a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You're going to do digital. You're never going to say never use digital. I was like that for a split second when I was in my early 20s, because I was having so much fun, because I was like indulging into getting my fingers dirty with paint. I was painting backgrounds for animation. I was designing characters, and I was having a blast. And I see that thing that looked a little bit sanitized, like cold, and people were unhappy behind their screens, and they were looking at us sculpting, painting, getting messy with color and having color fights and stuff like that. And they were like, oh my God, I wish we had that fun. I'm like, yeah. and after a while, you start seeing the benefits, though, of, having an image where you can be really clean when you want to do beautiful color. The thing is trying to make something entertaining, fun to read, a real storytelling experience. You don't want to make a pretty image. The best example is Preacher. Preacher is not made of pretty images. Granted, the story is amazing, so of course, but it doesn't need a pretty line art, like something that you stare at for hours and go like, oh my God, look at those lines, because that would distract you from the story.
Right.
It doesn't need that, which also proves the point that there's room for all sorts of styles and all sorts of way of telling stories.
And at that same point, Preacher, done by the late great Steve Dillon, his work was not pretty, but it was technically sound, and the storytelling was
very compelling.
And it was efficient. It was delivering. Yeah.
And it was brutal. Absolutely, it's. But I mean,
to what Stefan was just saying is like about playing around. I think that's very important, because I've been talking to kids doing portfolio sessions the last day or so, and there's obviously some great talent there. Some of them are really getting very, very polished and very professional looking at 16 years old. And I'm like, that's very impressive. You know what you're doing, clearly. You can produce a polished, professional looking result. Go away and make a freaking mess. Go and screw around. You don't need to be professional at 16.
Be experimental. Yeah, be experimental. Yeah.
Make a mess. Go try do comics with like blocks of lumber. I don't know, whatever. It should be something you play around with first.
I can see why, though, because it's not so much a feeling of that they've arrived and they're there and it's done. The deal is sealed. No, it's kind of like helping building foundations, though. Understanding where the medium's coming from and playing along those lines, but your point is even more important than that. Once you've Yoda, you got to learn what you've just learned. That's what it is. That's what it is. Learn the basis. It's just like those Italian comic book artists or artists, like, to begin with. The Italians are really good at studying anatomy, being accurate, being solid in their constructions of anatomy because of the history they have as artists, right? And then the ones who stick out are the ones who are straying away from that and learning something else and taking chances and making mistakes. That is the best teacher.
It's interesting, the different cultures. You definitely encountered that. Certainly going to like Angoulême and talking to people there, it's like the way people come into this business is so diverse. Because up until recently, there weren't that many schools that taught it. There wasn't an orthodoxy. So everybody came in from different angles. I mean, Stefan's got a very different background from me, but we both came in from like old school organic media and then into comics, when they were still like done paper and press and all this sort of stuff when computers were still like very much on the edge. So what interests me right now is on Instagram, following young artists like teenagers and 20-somethings who've only ever known digital, because what they're doing is really interesting to me, because it's like they don't have the limitations I have. I mean, I like my limitations. I'm happy with who I am and what I'm doing. It's fine. But I want to know where the kids are going, because they see things differently. And I think I need to learn. Certainly I can learn an awful lot from some 17-year-old who's been using Clip Studio for a year, probably can teach me a lot more than I know about it right now. But it's fascinating to see how the infinite choices affect other people, their different backgrounds. And, comics is a wonderfully eclectic medium. It pulls people in from everywhere, every walk of life.
Something, though, that I noticed from Instagram is that you can find hundreds and hundreds of artists, aspiring artists, or newly appointed professional artists who will indulge into one thing: portraits, cute Japanese heads, and that's it. And I'm like, guys, if you want to survive, that's really nice. What you do, I can't do.
Right.
I would probably have to secure 3 weeks of practice to get close to that, but I don't have time for that. I don't want to do it now. And it's not my upbringing as a creative person. I want to be more. You have to be curious. You have to be curious about everything. An artist that tells me, an aspiring artist, I'm not talking about the installed professional, an aspiring artist who tells me, I don't know how to draw the underneath of a Jeep, or I don't know how to draw the head of a rhino. Get the hell into it. Do it, because that's going to serve you on the long term, not just because you're not trying to be recognized as the wildlife illustrator, the ultimate wildlife illustrator. It's going to teach you so much more about your ability to observe, synthesize, and turn it into your style eventually.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I think I know Josh does a lot of storyboarding. I've done some storyboarding. You've done storyboarding. Coming into to advertising agencies as a comic book artist doing storyboarding, they go, "Wow, you're so good," because you can literally do everything right off the cuff, because it's all here. Because you have to. Comics don't give you time to think. You just have to keep going. You have to keep working. And if you don't quite know how a rhino works, you more or less know how a rhino works, and you can kind of draw it in and get it in there. And the advertising executives are used to dealing with storyboarding artists. They just go, "Oh, how do you know to do all these things so quickly?" And it's like, because comics is a hard school.
Some of the restrictions and hurdles from working in an industry where you got to react fast is actually a blessing, because it forces you to synthesize, to learn how to develop observation tools that will cut to the chase, that will make you discard the unnecessary details to draw something. I'm not a mechanic, but I have to make sure that when I draw the underneath of a car, even if I'm looking from photo reference online, because that's what we do these days anyway, I better have notions of mechanics and understand how it works.
I mean, the thing that we can bring in now, of course, is we can bring in 3D models into Photoshop or into Clip Studio, people like that. So we can actually get very accurate versions of things. And, someone can be drawing this quite light cartoony style, and suddenly there's a perfect 1973 Trans Am in there. It's like, what?
Yes, but it looks like if you don't understand what you're drawing, it shows no matter what.
Yeah.
And it still looks like a shoebox with wooden wheels.
Yeah.
It's all about, and especially when you're talking about that exact model of car, you got to be somewhat organic in your transcription. You got to make it make it sexy in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can't stand out. It can't be, 90% Stefan or Simon and then 10%, a 3D model, because our eyes will see it.
Yeah, it's still the show.
Yeah. And that's a strange phenomenon now that we have that access. Digital kind of puts us one step closer to having one of the most powerful tools at our fingertips, which is the internet, which is this huge resource of knowledge. it's easy to fall into some of those pitfalls of leaning on the knowledge without understanding it.
But
Yeah.
also, I mean, it's the companies. I mean, I know Marvel's got this massive archive of 3D models available to artists now. So because Marvel, not to be mean here, but Marvel is about standardizing a product, and they want everything to look a certain way. So if they can give you 3D models to do it, they can give you SketchUp models, and everybody gets the helicarrier exactly right. And it's like you lose something there. It's a little bit something gets sucked out of it there.
Yeah, the last thing I would want to become is a surgeon. You know, drawing surgical art. You know, like something very accurate but very cold and very. If the common denominator is the less artistic element, and everybody reuses it at envy, then it's going to be boring as hell.
Right. But you do feel that a lot of editors, or certainly the houses that have large amounts of IP, which they want to share with the world, would prefer it to be as standardized as possible, so they're little variants, so they don't have to worry about things like artists, because artists are annoying. Artists are individualistic and iconoclastic, and they do weird things. And
how did they do before? How did they do before that? I wonder, right?
They hired Jack Kirby.
And you can't, and against their own point, I mean, you're not going to get noticed by Marvel or DC by trying to be, you know, their style. You're going to get noticed by being yourself.
Yeah, that's not their agenda. That's not part of their agenda for sure.
No, better to be someone like Mike Allred, who makes a name for himself outside and comes in and gets it right in because they want that look.
Yeah, well, then he gets to be a rock star.
Yeah.
But bottom line is you use the tools at hand, and whenever you get the chance, because even with the archives that Marvel is putting together, to make it faster, to make it more productive, whatever the agenda is behind that, whenever you get the chance, mold it to your style, mold it to your liking, make it stand out a little bit, because the one that'll benefit is you anyway.
Yeah.
It won't deteriorate, or it won't dent the effort they're putting together to uniform everything. That's fine. If you put your touch on it, then it's going to stick out. It's going to stick out as your thing. You make it your thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's always going to be someone who's more accurate, who's following the rules more acutely. But that person can always be replaced by someone who's doing exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And who's kind of ironed out their personality. Someone who's removed
twice as fast.
Yeah. Someone who's removed their soul can be replaced by someone else who's removed their soul.
Yeah.
To be crude about it.
It's a turnover. That's
so
another.
The more you have to offer of yourself, the more it's impossible to replace.
I have a question here. Oh, I said it just appeared on our screen. I do paper animation. I learned a few classes from Don Duga. Is this too old for today?
No. I mean, in what way?
Depends.
Too old?
Depends on if you're hoping to have a career into paper animation, but you will get something out of it no matter what. You will learn something about your ability to capture the right movement, to transpose it into the one panel that where this pose has to be shining. You're going to learn something about, are you doing animation? Are you doing your own cleanups? If so, you're going to learn also something about your ability to clean faster and faster, or stay coarse and loose and organic and energetic. Something that another artist who doesn't go through that process, who wants to be analytical, who can't do anything but trace over a SketchUp model, won't have. So there will still be, every now and then, there will still be gigs, there will still be productions that will be using some level of traditional paper animation, but it's a good thing if you know how to do that, and then at the same time you start practicing as on digital. Like if your process of drawing, if you can transfer that to digital, you won't lose that much, because the layer system is equivalent to a light box with transparent paper. That's what it is. Now, if the issue is monetary because tablets are expensive and stuff like that, that's another story. And if you can't do it right now, there's always, you know, possibilities to benefit from somebody who has one later on in your career. It will happen. Things usually improve, you know, so you can always either going through a school where those are at your disposition, or don't bet on winning the lottery. That doesn't happen.
That can be. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, how'd you get to Carnegie Hall? Right.
Yes, practice.
There you go.
That can be a pitfall of digital work, is that it can be expensive to get started as a digital artist. There are alternatives to the most well-known Wacom out there. I'll provide a few links in the comments section for everybody of some alternative pen displays. I know, Simon, you mentioned you use an alternative that's not Wacom.
Yeah, I've tried a couple of alternatives to Wacom. The one I'm using right now is an XP Pen tablet, which is, you know, about 22 inches, and it costs less than $500. So that was a big deal for me. Is like I have a very difficult relationship with Wacom over the years. I've bought their products in the past, and I've had troubles with them all the time. So I resent spending $2,000 with a company I don't really like. So I held off on buying a graphics tablet, a video graphics tablet, because I was kind of like, I want to give Wacom $2,000. So these kind of the Huions and the XP pens have come through in recent years, and they're getting better and better. So I bought a Huion about 3 years ago. That didn't work out great, unfortunately, for various reasons, technical reasons. And then I got an XP pen 2 years ago. And I work on that 100% now, and it's been fantastic. I also use a cheap computer, relatively speaking. I got an old Dell Precision workstation, which is like, I don't know, 3-4 years old, which I think probably used to be running a CAD studio or something like that. You can buy some incredible hardware now for nothing, because old workstation hardware, it's solid, it's reliable, it's really robust. It can be you can upgrade it without as much as you like, and it costs like less than $1,000 to buy one of these workstations, which when it was new cost $5,000.
Yeah.
And comics is not tech intensive in that way. You don't need the best computer to do it. You know, you needed the best computer 15 years ago to do it, but now, frankly, I could do it on my phone. So it doesn't really work. The technology is not that important, but it's nice to have a good hardware. So I've got this Precision workstation, which cost me, $900, and I maxed out the RAM, and I put a couple of extra hard drives in it, and I've got this affordable tablet. I don't want to say cheap because it's pretty good, and that does everything I need, and it costs a fraction of what I know my friends have spent on this thing, because they bought themselves Mac laptops, and they've got themselves these big Wacom tablets and mountings and this, that, and the other. It doesn't need to be that cheap, that expensive.
Yeah, I would second what Simon just said. I'm kind of fortunate that my Cintiq and my computer. Well, my computer is custom built, and so I specifically put all the elements I needed to my work. But as far as the Cintiq is concerned, I've never had an issue with it, so I'm sticking with it until it won't work, and then I will definitely go the same path Simon is going, because that's the way to go. You don't want to pay overpriced, tools if you can't find the equivalent. And there's going to be some adjustments for the first couple of weeks when you change systems and when you change, the perception of the tool. But when I started working on this Cintiq, prior to that, I had the Wacom tablet where I had to look at my screen and work on the tablet, and I was like, oh my god, how am I going to fare pushing? I'm going to feel the difference that the pen is not really matching the cursor, and it's going to be a problem, but we're creating all that drama for ourselves, and it's some excuse for our struggles and stuff, and over time you get over it. It's just
I think, I mean, to that point, actually, the difference between where your pen tip is and where the cursor is, that's getting better and better. They bond the screens to the glass now, so they're much thinner. So they're improving.
And you adjust and you adapt to it anyway.
You do as well. That's also true.
Yeah. Just like when we had to work on a tablet and look at the screen a few years back, we were like, how am I going to do this? I've always been looking at the art that I was drawing on paper. Guess what? We're adjustable. We're adaptable.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you're just starting out as a digital artist, you can just get a regular, non-screen tablet for $100 or less than that.
I think that the thing is as well, it's like this is fine, but we're actually talking about technology which is like 5 years old now. I mean, my studio mates when I had a studio were doing this stuff ages ago. One of my buddies is now working entirely on an iPad Pro. So he can go down to Bryant Park, sit in the park, pencil, ink, and color 3 pages a day, and then go home. Astonishing.
Yeah.
And that thing costs what, $600? Something, $800? I don't know how much an iPad Pro costs, but you don't even need an iPad Pro. You can use a regular iPad. It works just as well.
Yeah.
And so the tech has really moved on so far, so fast. And I'm, that's maybe my next investment is like, frankly, I want to go on the move. I don't want to be sitting in my studio all the time. So I want to travel a bit once this pandemic settles down. I want to go and travel some around Europe. So I want to get myself an iPad Pro, and I'm going to sit down and see if I can do that, because that's now possible.
Yeah, and it would be good to get out of the studio. We've got bad reputations of being guys who are stuck in their studios all day.
I don't know. I like to hang out with my friends.
Yeah. I was just over at a friend's house right now, the first time since God knows a year, and it was just like, it felt so weird. It's like, oh, people.
I just got people over just this weekend, and like not having to mask up is a strange experience. It also it gives me I now I have to make up excuses for why I don't want to socialize, because the pandemic was a good catch-all.
It was us. I mean, we didn't choose this profession because we were gregarious social people.
No.
Now the thing about being able to work in cafes and parks and stuff, it's one way of not feeling as isolated as we are when we're in our office or studios.
Yeah.
But I find, and I don't know, I've never practiced it 25 years ago when I was, more like more mobile, I would say. I find these days that there are times when you really need to focus on the pages.
Yes.
Not because you don't have as many brain cells to dedicate to that, but just because you want to make sure you're giving your best. You're like, it's like everything, I see kids these days studying and listening to music in school, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't tell me that you're 100% focused on what you're learning. How much of it are you gonna retain? How much of it are you gonna let slide? Now, that being said, when I'm working, whether it's on paper or on my computer, I can listen to a radio program, for example. Not so much watch TV, because I can't watch a movie and pretend I watched it while I'm working. I'm listening to the dialogues, right? But when I listen to radio fiction, like a play or something, I can focus on doors slamming, wooden floor cracking and stuff like that, and I can build a set in my mind, and I can follow the action as I'm drawing. So I can split my focus.
Yes.
But being outside, I would be concerned for a little while to be a little too solicited by so many different things.
It's different because there's different parts of the process which have different requirements of you. I can't do anything except if I'm doing layouts, that's all I can do. I have to be in a quiet place, no distractions. I have to kind of like burrow in. If I'm doing inking, I have to be there mostly. I can do it with something in the back, sound in the background or something. Coloring, who cares?
Yeah. Okay. I was because I was wondering, doing inks and coloring outside in Bryant Park, good luck with that. You know. Yeah. But no, I can see that. If it's just coloring, yeah, easy. Yeah.
I did used to work in the library down the road. When I didn't have a proper dedicated space and I needed to get out of here, I just go down to the library, and there's always a table free, and I would just like sit and work. Quiet, peaceful, nice environment, people moving around, but not too many people. It's good.
We have another question here. Are there particular programs or software we need to know about to work in the field? Now, we actually talked about this before the panel, because as we all know, Adobe is very expensive, and they don't stop trying to be expensive. So what do you guys use, and what do you recommend for, I guess, the young person who may not be full of cash?
All right. I'm out. Bye, guys.
I mean, I use, I've been trying to divest myself of Adobe for the same reason I'm trying to get rid of Wacom, because they annoy me, so I don't like giving them money. So I, primarily for drawing, I'm using Clip Studio. If you want, I got a screen actually. If you can put my screen up, that would be great. And I do all my inking in Clip Studio. So hang on a minute. Yeah, there we go. So that's a blue line. So that's basically me scribbling pencil marks on a little bit of paper, relatively small. It's like A4. It's not very big. And then taking a picture of it with my phone, and then dropping that into Clip Studio, and I can then use Clip Studio as my inking tool. So that's really the number one tool I use all the time.
So did you do it on A4 because it's faster to lay it out?
Yeah, because I fuss less about it, and a lot of I just want to get. Oh, I've got all these rulers on there. So this text is kind of in process. But anyway, I can ink on that. So that's the ink that went onto that, and then I can drop color onto that. That's Clip Studio is very, very good because it's a specifically designed tool for doing comics. It's designed for manga. But more or less it's the same thing. Now there's other things. I don't like the color in Clip Studio. I don't think the tools are great. Mm-hmm. So I use what is a Photoshop equivalent app called Affinity, which I've got here. There's Affinity, which gives you very similar tool set to Photoshop, but you can do things like you can work things that way and at an angle. There's a bunch of stuff it can do. It has the advantage of being much, much cheaper than Photoshop. It's $50. There's 3 packages. There's Infinity Photo, there's Infinity Designer, there's Infinity Publisher. So it basically performs the way the old Adobe Suite used to work. Yes. Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, I think. So you get that. You get all those tools for $150, which is great. And I'd rather give them money because they're not trying to screw me all the time. Excuse me. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, Adobe. Adobe have had a lot of my money over the years, so I'm sure they can let other people have some for a little while. But yeah, I like a nice, clear, simple workflow for coloring because a lot of coloring is done very fast. Yeah. And I want to get it done because I like to move forward. I don't like to do too much of my own coloring because it's just such a time drain. So I like a software that I can set up with a very clear, simple tool set and just go bang, 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 do it like a limited palette. You can see my palette up there on the right. Just keep it as simple as possible so that I don't get distracted because as Stefan was saying earlier, it's like too many choices. It gets you can get sucked down a rabbit hole and end up spending far too much time doing something which is not productive. So that's kind of my technical.
I called my family to the rescue this morning. I was struggling with a color on a background that I'm working on. And I called the girls and I said, okay, which one works better? They were here 2 seconds. It was done. This one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, family can be your harshest critic.
The fresh eye, they go in there. Yeah, that sucks. Okay.
Yeah, fresh eye, but yeah, they're very critical. Because they got
sometimes it helps you detangle a situation.
Absolutely.
You don't have to second guess. You get a fresh take of the potential average reader. Like, yeah, I like that. No, I don't like this one. Okay, then I'll go for this one. Mm-hmm. the point is, it's a thin line between trying to be a crowd pleaser and being an artist that backs up his own decisions, artistically speaking. So it's a thin line to walk between the two. But sometimes when you're too caught up into your own work and you lose perspective, you need to have the fresh eye over it.
Yeah, it's true.
And if you are going to let people look at your work and give input, you also have to have a thick skin about it.
Oh yeah.
Know that there's areas where you're going to do something that needs improvement, and don't take it personally.
Yeah, you can't have too much of an ego. Because that's the whole point of producing something. It's going to be judged by a million of other people who are going to watch it. Hopefully,
Yeah,
get a million reader. But even if it's 10 people, it's going to be 10 people who are going to pass judgment on your work. So you better be prepared, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Yes, it's almost bigger than just talking about going to digital or not. Is just being able to take yourself out of the process a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the day you know you're a professional is when the worst day you have is good enough. The best day, whatever. Everyone has best days. Even like the worst artist in the world has a best day where they produce something amazing. But on the worst day, when you really don't feel like it, and you have to do it, and you have to show up and you produce something, and it doesn't suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you get great stuff out of those kinds of days. I had those days. When I started working for Business Insider, I had a day where I penciled a piece that involved a massive crowd of paparazzi, and I realized I got through like half the day, and I powered through it, and I realized I did the wrong piece because it was a historical thing. I did the wrong piece. It was the wrong day. It was the wrong event.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, well, that day is ruined, but I'm just going to pretend that, now 4:00 is the beginning of my day. I'm going to redo it and I get through it. And it ended up being one of my favorite pages of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
After suffering through doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get.
Yeah, and like I said, all those moments where you make mistakes, and that's the best lesson you've ever had in weeks.
Yeah. I have a comment here. Perfection is the enemy of done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you
Good
go.
enough is good enough.
Close enough for comics? Classic?
Yeah. What are they paying me for? Perfection? Nope.
Yeah, no, you gotta get it done. You're working in Clip Studio right now?
Yeah, this is Clip Studio. It's got a very good ink line. I find the inking, I don't know what it is, some kind of model, whatever it is. There's a nice kind of juicy quality to the ink line in Clip Studio. It's hard to explain what that means. As an inker, you'll know. Well, if you're using a nice soft but precise nib, it can feel like that, and you can set it up to it. It gives you a very kind of specific line feel as you're inking, and this gives me a very kind of fun, bouncy line, and I enjoy it. I think that's the key. Is like if I'm not enjoying the inking, it doesn't come out well, because I'm a very emotional inker. If I'm tense, my hand gets too stiff, and it doesn't look good. It's not free. It doesn't have that kind of liveliness, and the difference between me 5 years ago trying to ink with Photoshop really is the Clip Studio inking model. It's just that good that I don't feel that I'm compromising with the tool.
Yeah.
It just feels right. And frankly, I'm 52 years old. My eyesight isn't what it was. My motor coordination isn't what it was when I was 25. I'm inking up here. I mean, what you're seeing here, that face is about the size of the palm of my hand when I'm inking it. So I can use my whole hand to ink, which is fantastic because it means I'm not straining my eyes. I'm not straining my hands. I'm really working. I'm working the way my art teacher always told me to, with my arm, with my whole arm, and getting that line quality. Whereas if I'm using what I normally ink with, if I'm inking on paper, which I do now and again just to keep my hand in, I'm inking with the G pen, or I'm inking with one of these little zebra brush pens.
Yeah.
And to get detail, I'm like this. And
Yeah.
I was doing it the other day. I was doing inking with a G pen the other day, and I was like, God, this is stressful. Because if I make a mistake, I've got to go back and start again. Because
Yeah.
it was a commission, so I can't like scrape it back and hack it down and put some white out over it. It's got to look nice. So I have to go back and redo the whole thing again if I screw up. And it's like wow, digital's saving my ass again. It's just so much easier in that sense.
Well, yeah, no, that's completely true. Now, the thing about imperfections of original on paper
Mhm.
is also what makes it unique. You know?
Yeah.
It's also what. So what you screwed up? Maybe the line, the alignment of the eyes, or you screwed up like the nostril as you were trying to be fine in details and you couldn't because your pen spilled or something, or you didn't pick the right one and you went overboard or a little too thick or too heavy on it. It's part of the, it was made in the moment. And if the person who commissioned or somebody witnessed you drawing it and the overall piece looks energetic, charming, pleasant to the eyes and stuff, it's still an experience. It's part of the experience, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like because basically what I'm doing most of the time, I'm just inking on top of my layouts rather than doing full pencils. So a lot of the time, I think my layouts are actually better than when I pencil it up, because then you lose something you lose a little bit of the energy. These pencils are a bit more polished than I would normally do. I'm just showing off here. So if I'm just inking on a layout, I can capture the energy of it, and I can keep trying it until I get it right. Because digital doesn't penalize you that way. If I'm inking something with ink and pens and so forth, and I ink it 4 times, and I've just thrown 4 pieces of paper across the room. In this case, I can just like undo, start that again, and I can get the right energy in it, rather than polish it to death, which is a thing you can do as well, which unfortunately kills things. But if you want a specific dynamic flow, you can work at it until you get that right.
So we've got about just over 2 minutes left. I want to just bring it down to, I guess, a final thought on the subject. Do either of you have any closing remarks, Simon, Stefan?
I would just say, be curious, be open-minded on even on the things that you don't really like to draw, that are not the things you grew up indulging in for so many years. Just be curious and try a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Because all you got to lose is you're not even going to waste time doing it. You're gonna acquire some level of knowledge. You're gonna either learn why a spoon is designed that way, why a car is designed that way, why that combo of colors defines a sunset or a sunrise, what is a night mood, you're going to learn, and you're going to learn in digital skills, and you're going to learn in traditional skills, which is always a good thing. The more skills you acquire, the further you'll go in your career.
Yep.
That's it.
Simon, go ahead.
So something I've said a lot, and anyone who's taught in the last few years will have heard this to death, and they'll go, he's on his rant again. Feed yourself. Your brain's this wonderful thing which can do tremendous things. It can produce wonderful ideas, but really you've got to give it stuff to work with. And you get that by, existing in the world and looking around and being observant, but also sketching from real world, from life drawing, from just looking around you and processing it with your hands. And it goes into your subconscious, and your subconscious just sits on it, just swirls it around for a few years, and then 15 years later it comes out. And you don't know what's going to come out. That's the wonderful thing. The example I use a lot is like I was living in Vienna, Austria, back in the 90s. And I remember I was on a Straßenbahn, a streetcar, And I remember seeing this young woman stepping off the streetcar onto the street. And I remember it so vividly, the angle of her hips and the way her spine sat and the way she was holding the rail. And I think I've used that information hundreds of times since. It's just one of these moments which is went in there and keeps coming out. And it's always useful because it's such an interesting thing, the way human beings move and the way they balance themselves and the way the kind of dynamics of a body work and how they express the character of that person. It's kind of fascinating.
That's the kind of stuff they teach in animation schools, that you got to observe before you draw the first line. You got to, your antennas have constantly to be on the lookout for body posture, objects, light, shading. It's a mix of those things.
All right, guys, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being part of this panel. Everyone, thank you so much for coming to Fanfare NYC. Please donate. Please check out the rest of the panels. Stefan, Simon, thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, the event that people are enjoying, it was produced by the High School of Art and Design PTA, which is this amazing group of parents. Many of them are working professionals in the creative fields themselves. And so we did tap into those filmmakers and graphic designers to help us. But basically, they're just really driven to give as much as they can to the students of the high school, coming from every neighborhood in New York, from Staten Island to way out in Queens to the Bronx. And our population of students also runs the gamut of economic background, so that there are some kids who have a full set up really fancy computer at home, and there are some that are working mostly at school on the school computers and things like that. We need funding for every kid to get them the best stuff possible, to realize their dreams. They're entrepreneurs. They want to be in the creative fields. They want to be working like these amazing professionals, and we need donations to make that happen from everybody who's watching. This is a great slide because it shows, how much your donation could really mean in reality. A dress form. Everybody in our fashion design major needs a dress form if they're going to be able to sew at school and make a proper garment. Can you donate that? That's where we are. Miguel, your son graduated. I know that it was really a place of experimentation for him, but also like finding his people, kind of.
Exactly. Yes, that's a very strong part of the I guess what threads everything together here. And if you've been watching these panels the last 2 days, that is something that you see the kids here. I mean, you're going to see right now, as soon as we go away and we stop this little pledge drive, you're going to meet 3 students who, are knee deep in their work, but yet they all come from different, boroughs, experiences and all that. And yet they come here and it all merges. And I know in speaking to alum, and teachers, of course, that have taught and continue to teach there at the school, it's one of those, I guess the driving points about it is that the commonality is that they're creative, and yet they're all coming from different parts of just like you're saying, the economic strata, the cultural strata, the different viewpoints and all that. And if that is exactly what we need, right, is just have these people fostering this creative energy and getting something that's really great out of it. One of my old stories is that regular schools, not to downplay funding for them, but if this is a math or science school, you're just buying more graph paper, more pencils. I know I know that's not really what it is, but still. But here, for art, there's inks, there's paints, there's papers, there's tablets, there's light boxes, there's all sorts of things. And on top of that, there's college trips, there's helping the seniors with their graduation and so on. So we're trying to make a very, very strong pitch to everyone out there. I should be, if I was smart, I would be putting up the website. Here's the fanfare.nyc.com, and we also have it available for folks who don't want to type a couple of characters. They can just text using their supercomputer that's in their hip pocket,
FFNYC.
There you go, John.
44-321.
There you go. So, we don't want to hold up anymore. I know the Joanne, if you want to have anything else.
Just that, not to go too strongly, but I think that there are so many people out there saying, I want to make a difference in the world. And this is an urban high school serving kids from all different backgrounds and economic stratas, and from all over the city. You have an opportunity to make a difference in the world and encourage and inspire future designers, architects, fashion designers, and photographers, filmmakers. And so this is your time to go into your wallet, get out the credit card with the highest, that you have the most money on, that you can put the most money on, and make a donation. This is the time to do it.
That's great.
And if you donate to just those math and science high schools, you're just going to wind up with an Elon Musk trying to send your kids to space. You know what I mean? You don't want that. You want them creating stuff here on Earth. Beautiful landscapes and pictures and drawing and art. You don't want them going to Mars.
And then pack it into the space shuttle that goes up to Mars.
Yes, exactly.
A time capsule, if
Right,
you will.
right,
Something safer.
But that's it. I mean, you're using designs every day. We're wearing it. We're interacting with it. We've got it on our wall. This is what makes life richer, and you have the opportunity to make it happen.